You know, it's called crazy.
Crazy this time of year. Crazy.
Right? Hey, everybody. Welcome to Rock and Roll Confessional. It's Rita Wild over there. This is CW West.
I do see that.
I'm doing beautiful, Rita Wild. It's almost holiday time, you know, getting into the spirit, sort of, finally, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit. Just a little bit.
The one thing I have the problem with, though, is driving. I'm like a pretty easy, at least I think I am a pretty easygoing person, you know.
Yes.
You know.
You're very calm. I've driven with you many times.
But there was a day, Wednesday, I was out, and it was like everything that people could do to annoy me was being done in the car. Or like at Target, I was at Target, and then there was somebody in front of me who obviously worked there, but she didn't seem to have that many, products in her basket. But she went up there and it was like, okay, this goes on this gift card. This goes on.
Oh,
and, it took probably 30 minutes. And I'm just going, I'm calm. I'm nothing pressured, but I just can't believe this person hasn't looked around and said, I'm sorry. Just a nice little, sorry about this text. Understand. But no, I swear to God, half hour.
Did you take it personally?
I think at the time I did. But then I got back in my car and somebody else was
pissing you off, or you were finally pissing them off?
No, they were pissing me off. I'm an angel. I don't do anything bad.
Sure.
You know that.
Right. Okay. Whatever you say.
Yeah, whatever. So be careful out there driving, people. Be nice.
Or just stay away from Rita.
No.
What do we got this time?
Well, today it is the world famous DJ Richard Blade. He joins us for this episode. Richard started in radio when he got that bug when he was just a young kid listening to Radio Luxembourg and all those kind of stations that he was able to get because he grew up in England. He worked at some European radio stations, but he really wanted to come to America. And his first job in radio was in Bakersfield, then KNEC in Long Beach when it was Rock and Rhythm. And then finally at K-Rock in Los Angeles. He was always one of the top rated jocks during his career on the radio here. And Richard has a new book titled The Lockdown Interviews, featuring interviews with some of the hottest bands like
Duran Duran, Sparks, Spandau Ballet, English Beat, The Alarm, Drama, Rama, and a whole lot more. The interviews were recorded from Richard's SiriusXM radio show during the pandemic, and the book was just released last month and is now available at Amazon.
So let's dive into our interview with DJ Richard Blade.
Hello, Richard Blade.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I was in the emails, Rita, I was telling Richard that I had worked at K-Rock for 1 year in 87 before I got fired from our good friend Tony Berardini.
From Boston, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was at Boston. I was in the marketing department. I had told Tony, just because it works in Boston doesn't mean it works in LA. And I think that was the tipping point. I opened my mouth too big, but...
It was easy to do with the Dark Overlord.
Yeah. We've all had Dark Overlords, many of them, actually.
Yeah, but he was the worst.
Jeez.
Wow, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad because we haven't talked a lot of stuff about stuff in our mutual careers, but yeah, when it's bad like that, it's just yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us for Rock and Roll Confessional. There are so many things I want to talk to you about. You have a new book out called The Lockdown, which we will get into and talk about that. But Richard, I've got to say, just from the beginning, just what an incredible career you've had. And maybe luck played a part of that, but also your work ethic. I mean, you were there whenever something was needed. You'd go to Bakersfield and work there for a year, going through all the clubs in Europe, doing the DJ thing. I just have so much admiration and respect for you and the road that you've done and the career that you've created. So I just want to say that.
Well, thank you very much. But I always thought that if you wanted to get into something like radio, you had to pay your dues and you had to learn it from the inside out. So in a way, I was fortunate to get into Bakersfield because that way I could learn everything. I could not only learn the on-air tricks, but also what it took behind, to work with the sales department, to work with the marketing people, to work in production, and put together, the drops and the commercials, and then to go out on sales calls as well. Just even though I never, ever went and sold anything, even for K-Rock, for KNAC, for anyone, but it was good to know what the salespeople have to go through. And I just believed in that. If you don't know your job, how can you be good at it ever?
I remember listening to you on KNAC, Rock and Rhythm. I think I just started working at KZY, and I'm driving home and I hear you, and it's like, oh, this guy just sounds like he's way too happy. It's like, no, he can't possibly be that happy, enjoying, working the overnight and stuff like that. So you gave out the phone number. I called, and you were the same jovial person that you were on the radio. I mean, it was authentic.
Oh, well, I just enjoyed it. I've always thought it's a privilege to be on the radio and or in any kind of media position. So it's not something I've taken it for granted a few times if I've gone into work tired or whatever like that. But I try to appreciate the moment, because you only get that moment once. And so when you're interacting with a listener, whether it's Rita Wild who's calling in or, Joe Blow calling in, you've got to be nice to them, because it might be the only time you ever talk to them. It might be the 20th listener you've talked to in an hour, but for them, it's the first time they've got through to the radio station and the DJ perhaps. And if you don't give them a good impression, it might be the last time they ever get through. So you got to look at it from the fanboy point of view, because I'm a fanboy myself. When I meet certain artists, I'm like, whoa! So if anyone ever feels that about me, and even just a micronism of it, then I'm just flattered, and that's why I'm kind of happy. It's like I'm not digging a ditch.
Richard, what brought you from England to Bakersfield? Because there's not a big draw in Bakersfield.
No, it's not. Well, I went to LA thinking I'd break into radio in Los Angeles. And for 3.5 years, I just couldn't get anywhere, because I was told time and time again, particularly when I went to KMET one time and met with the PD over there, she said to me, "You'll never work in this town with that accent." And then I figured, well, I'll go wherever I can and work and see if I can get some ratings. And if she's right, then she's right. And if she's wrong, then I'll come back and I'll do it here. So, after I won a contest on K-West, before it was Power, and J.J. Jackson, God bless him, was the guy who sat in on my session. He was such a good guy. We became friends later, and friends and rivals, because I was doing a TV show and he was doing MTV, of course. And but he was always the greatest guy, and he sat in for my 1 hour on K-West, and he scoped, or recorded, shall I say, my show. And I sent it out the next day to a bunch of stations in San Francisco. I sent it to KZY in Anaheim as well, just, with my fingers crossed, but it was too close to LA. And Bakersfield called the day after they got the tape and said, would you come on out? And so that's how I ended up in Buck Owens country.
Wow. What was the format of that station?
Well, that was the funny thing. I was Disco Dick Shepherd at the time, because, I had to make a living as a DJ. So I was working in all the clubs. I was working at the Red Onion. I was doing private parties, and I was doing, like Michael Jackson's house DJ. I would do all his parties and the parties for Barbara Streisand and stuff like that. So just because of the English accent as well, because that was kind of a hook. And then if you come in and deliver the music, then they invite you back, particularly if you show up on time, because most DJs tend not to show up on time, that kind of thing. So I had a good kind of little career going, but then Bakersfield was just my opportunity to make that transition from working in the clubs and working in mobiles to getting into radio and seeing if I could cut it there.
And that was what, mid 70s?
No, that was August of 1980.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'd done a little, smidgen of radio in Europe, but nothing really to talk about on a regular basis. And so it was, from ground zero up, I was building, what's this thing? It looks like an 8-track. Oh, you call it a cart. Okay.
Cart. And you push this button, and then you have to wait and then push the next button.
That's right. Don't ever push stop.
In reading your book, World in My Eyes, which this is so good, Richard. This is so good. I mean, I obviously in radio, so I got that appeal, but just everything. You're an exceptional writer.
Oh, thank you.
I was with you the whole book. I mean, it was the kind of book that I'd wake up and think, oh, good, I've got something to look forward to today. I had to finish Richard's book. It is so well written, so well done. So congratulations on that. That is a huge bestseller. And now you have a new book, The Lockdown Interviews, which basically talks to various people who are your friends, who've become your friends during the lockdown, talking about music and so forth. And you knocked Paul McCartney off the charts. My God.
I couldn't believe that. I mean, my favorite bands are the Beatles and Depeche Mode in that order. And I'm currently watching Get Back, on Disney Plus. And I'll watch anything with the Beatles. Every 4 months, I watch Yesterday, the movie Yesterday. I cry in that movie. I won't say what point if people who are listening to this have not seen it, but 3/4 of the way through, something happens. And he meets someone, and I just cry every time. I mean, it's like, oh, but I love the Beatles. So when that happened, I wish my mom and dad were alive to see that. They'd be like, well, there you go, son. Did like Penny Lane, that kind of thing. So
the book is a collection of interviews that you've done over the past year, the past 2 years?
Past year and a quarter.
Okay.
Actually, just over 1 year. The first one was actually with Andy Bell of Erasure in November of 2020.
And there's members of Duran Duran, Devo, Sparks. There's one with Gary Newman, Stray Cats, Go-Go's, Spandau Ballet, English Beat. So many. Berlin, Dramarama, The Alarm. Any favorite in there, or is everyone kind of your friend and you can't pick your kid? You can't pick your favorite kid?
Well, that's such a great question, because everyone who's been posting about it now on Twitter and putting, the photographs, just got my book, this kind of thing. I try and speak to everyone and write them a little personal message and say, hey, let me know what your favorite is. I asked Krista, my wife, and she knows some of the artists quite well and others that she's just seen from a distance. And I said, what's your favorite interview? And she goes, I don't know. And then she said, UB40. And I was like, wow. And she goes, because I knew nothing about UB40. And she really liked that one. To me, my 3 favorite interviews I would have to do are Gary Newman, because he is so open. He talks about his Asperger's. He talks about losing a child. I mean, it's just staggering how open he is. And I've known him for a long time. I knew his dad, and his dad's still with us. Fortunately, his mum isn't. And his dad was so proud of him in those early days, these autograph signings at Tower Records. It was great. And so Gary Newman is a real favorite of mine. The Alarm, even though I know the story super well, because I'm very good friends with both Mike and Jules, his wife. The way I deliberately structured that interview, because it starts with the two of them, and I asked her to leave and then come back in, because a lot of the readers might not know the story. There's such a wham in there, and I don't mean the band. To me, that is an unforgettable one. And then one with Jerry Casale of Devo is pretty amazing, because I didn't know how Devo started, and it was because of the shooting at Kent State. And when he said that in his first few words, I was like, whoa, are you kidding me? I mean, I was a kid in England, and I knew about the shootings at Kent State because we saw the black and white photographs of the girl putting the flower petals down the gun barrel. And then the next picture you see is the bodies lying on the grass. It was like, what the hell is going on? And so, for him to be standing there when the bullets were flying and watch 2 of his friends killed, for that to be the inspiration of such an incredible, fun party band, and yet with very deep lyrics, is great. So it's a long answer to a short question. I would have to pick at least 3. So it's hard.
You came along in radio, and then you got very lucky with the video stuff too. I mean, you've got very charismatic with that, and a lot of video shows and TV shows and movies and so forth. And at that time, it was like a new British wave was coming through. I think a lot of those people could relate to you. I mean, you know what it's like living in England. You know what it's like to get a cup cup of tea, a real proper cup of tea, and go to the pub and appreciate the sunshine when you haven't seen it for 2 weeks. Did that really help you a lot as far as getting to know all these people, and then you could educate them more about America?
I think it did after and before the cameras rolled, because I was able to talk to them and they'd say, oh, so where are you from? And I'd say, oh, I'm from Torquay. And they go, oh, Torquay. And when you say that town, Torquay, you get two answers from British people. It's either, oh, me mum and dad went there on their honeymoon, or it's, oh, Fawlty Towers, because Fawlty Towers was set in Torquay. And because
one of my favorites.
Yeah, well, they shot the first 2 seasons of Monty Python in Torquay because they didn't have the budget to shoot it in London. The BBC wouldn't give them the money to shoot it in a big city. So they went down to Torquay and stayed in a bed and breakfast, because then they could shoot in the nearby town of Plymouth, a big city, to make it look like London. And then they could go up to Dartmoor for all the countryside shots. And then they had the ocean for, the guy coming out, and that kind of stuff. So it was based on John Cleese's experience in a bed and breakfast from this manager who just hated everyone from the BBC. So, everyone in England. So it was great. You sit there with George Michael and Andrew Ridgeley, and you're talking with them, and they're the biggest band in the world. And Andrew goes, oh, so you're from Torquay? I love it down there. One of these days I'm going to move down there. And I'll never forget him saying that, because he lives in Cornwall, and Cornwall's the next place over. It'd be like someone saying, I want to move to Southern California. And then instead of LA, they just go to San Diego. So, that was, so behind the scenes, it gave you a chance to really establish a relationship, I think.
And it comes through not only in your work that you've done with interviews and so forth, but also in your new book, in the lockdown interviews and so forth. I mean, that relationship that you have with the band, you can put yourself in there and really get close to them. I mean, the fact that you mentioned Gary Newman talked about Asperger's, the tinnitus Brian Setzer goes through, a lot of things that, a lot of people just couldn't get from a regular interview. I mean, you go deep and you dig deep.
I try and, one of the tricks, I think, with an interview is not having cue cards. I've never respected hosts on TV or on the radio that have a set series of questions that they have to get through. Okay, my PA's written me 20 questions. I've got to get through them. So they ask one question saying, so what was the biggest thing that ever happened in your life? And the person answers, well, when I was a kid, I killed 3 people. Oh, really? So when you moved from your home, it's like at that point, you stop the interview. You go, wait a minute, you did what? And then you jump in. And so there's a few moments in the lockdown interviews where I actually wrote that in, where I said, one of them with Midge Ure, when he was being asked to join Ultravox. And he said, yeah, and so I talked to the guys, and we then figured out how we could get another record label. And I went, "Wow, what do you mean another record label? You were signed at the time. The band had 3 great albums." And he said, no, they got back from an American tour that was incredibly unsuccessful for them. And there was a letter waiting for them saying, basically, your services are no longer required. And that was a shock to me, because Ultravox was such, a formative synthesizer band and influenced so many others to follow, from OMD to Human League to Depeche Mode. And when you get those moments come through in an interview, I feel required to ask the question that the listener would. What do you mean you didn't have a record label? How is it possible that someone as talented as you and as big as that band doesn't have a record label? The stupidity of the company to let you go. And then the next album they release goes straight to number 1, which would slap in the face to those guys. Probably the same people that turned down George Lucas when he says, "I've got this idea for a sci-fi thing set in space."
Yeah, but amazing how many popular artists got turned down a couple of times, like U2 got turned down, ELO, Jimi Hendrix couldn't do anything. So they moved to London, to England, Jimi Hendrix.
And Phil Collins famously, in his living room wall, instead of a painting, he has a framed letter from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences saying, "Dear Mr. Paul Collins, I'm afraid you can't perform your song against all odds on the Academy Awards because we feel you're not a big enough name."
Oh my God!
I know.
Really?
So somebody
Even
else
though
sang
it. Was it nominated?
Oh yeah, I think it went on to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the movie I think got like 5 nominations against all odds.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but they couldn't even get his name right.
Oh,
And they,
Maybe
and
that's why they didn't want him. They kept going. They kept Googling Paul, and they're like,
"Oh yeah,
he doesn't have a big enough name."
That's it.
That's just insane. Another thing that you get when you read World in My Eyes, it's just all the corporate crap that you had gone through. In the early days, you didn't do that. You had an opportunity to expose new music to people. I remember hearing Stray Cats on KNEC with you playing them before they were even released in America. It was like, oh man, this is great stuff. And then it comes out like a year or two later, their 2 albums is basically one record. So there was a point when rock and roll really kind of shifted. And you being a longtime veteran of K-Rock and us being veterans of KLOS, we could play The Fix, we could play U2, we could play,
we play
Stray Cats and stuff like that. But it seemed to be the synthesizer bands that were that separating line.
I think you're right. And I mean, don't disparage KLOS and like KMET and yourself and Jim Ladd and people like that, because you were the K-Rock of the 70s as well, that format. I mean, when I first came over, I remember sitting, I was working at the Plank House in San Pedro, and I would sit in the hills of Rancho Palos Verdes and tune into KLOS and listen to the sets of music being put together before my gig. And I go in to play Barry White and the Bee Gees, but I was listening to, Fleetwood Mac and stuff like that, and just admiring the way that it was put together on those stations. And so really radio, until the corporations came in, was always the pioneering medium. And with Rick Carroll, who started the K-Rock format, and he gets all the credit. I mean, Rick was incredible because he knew how to get out of his own way. So many program directors and GMs think they know everything, and nobody knows everything. I mean, even the best DJ doesn't know everything. You go through the request lines, and that's where you learn, because a kid will say, hey, there's this great band out of Manchester called the Smiths. If you heard them, they just released a single. And you go, oh, no, but I'll listen for them. And then that's how we would get turned on to them. And Rick Carroll's philosophy was, he put together a music key, and then he had openings in there for Jock's Choices where you could play anything. And, certain DJs had their own style. For example, Dusty Street would play what was now called dark wave, Susie and the Banshees and Bauhaus. She would, the Creatures, and she would slip bands like that in. Freddie Snakeskin would, you never knew what was coming from Freddie. He loved to put on James Brown or 2 minutes of drops from Dragnet and stuff like that. He was fantastic. And then Jed was a huge supporter of Oingo Boingo and Devo. And it was, so when we got off the air, we used to listen to it. I was very much into the, I like the synthesizers, everything from Soft Cell through to Flock of Seagulls and Depeche Mode and Duran and all that kind of stuff. But that was the great thing about K-Rock, is that we had that freedom to drop in these choices. And then the other thing that Rick said is, if you get a record brought into you, meaning from any source, and it's better than the one you were going to play the one you've got. And he said, but it better be better. In other words, don't screw up. And it was rare that he ever said, we made a wrong decision to anyone, because even if it was only as good as the one we pulled out, he admired the fact that, oh, well, it's a new one. It didn't suck. It wasn't bad, but there was a lot of songs that got onto the K-Rock playlist that way, the brand new one from, I mentioned the Smiths. My buddy had a record store in Covina called Hot Rocks, and he drove in and he said, he used to bring me Depeche Mode, and he said, there's this new band, you should try them, the Smiths. I said, let's play it on the air. And, that's how it came about. And the same with Mad World from Tears for Fears, and the same with Talk Talk, and a bunch of songs like that. But we had that freedom. And then around about 1987, when the corporate takeovers started and K-Rock was bought out, we went through the same thing that every other radio station did. Suddenly we were sat upon and told, it's great that it's wonderful that you find the music. We think it's terrific. Give it to us and we'll do research. We'll put together a 7-second hook and we'll call out and make sure in other words,
and we'll get back to you in 3 months.
Yeah.
After everyone else has played it.
Yeah. And then I'll never forget, we got a new GM who I actually really, really like. A really nice guy called Trip Reeb. He replaced Tony Baradini.
He was like in Chicago. He was like PD in Chicago, I think, for a while.
Yeah, I think he was.
WMET,
and he came out,
yeah.
And he was a great PD, but he came in just as grunge was starting. And I'll never forget the jock meeting where he put on Blue Monday from New Order, which had, always been one of our biggest songs and remains to this day one of the biggest songs of the 80s. And he played about 30 seconds of New Order and he lifted the needle off the turntable. I'll explain what that is later, kids. And he said, "That's what we're not going to play anymore." And I remember looking at Dusty and Dusty looking at me, and we both went, "Oh." It was just heartbreaking to hear that. Yeah. But after about 3 to 6 months, Trip was a smart man, very intelligent man. He realized from the request lines and from going to K-Rock events that there was a big place for the New Orders and Depeche Modes and Durans on the playlist, and it would be a mistake to eliminate them. So they remained. But for about 3 to 6 months, it was tough times.
That was the time Metallica was coming out, and I think you guys were playing Metallica and
Nirvana,
the Alice in Chains.
Yeah. And Soundgarden and the group with the worst name in the world, Hoobastank.
So many of them. The synthesizer band, so that to me was like a real dividing line because of Depeche Mode. I mean, they became huge and you guys owned them. But anytime that we would try to play something from Depeche Mode, our phone lines would just go crazy. Just like, get that off. I mean, it would not test also well, but you guys, that became your band, and you have so many wonderful stories to talk about, if you can, about the Rose Bowl and about the In-Store, which I think CW was at.
I wasn't there. I thank God I was not there.
You would have loved it.
As a promotion guy, that's when you start sweating and you worry not only about your job, but lives. But go ahead, Richard.
I was put on the point for that after everything seemed to go wrong, and the 17,000 people were on the streets and then they called a tactical alert and 2 divisions of police were brought in and mounted police and 4 aerial units and all that kind of stuff. I was called in by Tony Baradini and I was told, okay, you're the one who has to speak for the station. And if we get fined, it's your fault. In other words, your ass is on the line. And I had to go face to face with Zev Yaroslavsky, either the representative or the councilman or whatever he was at the time. And we actually we did 2 TV debates on Channel 5 about it. And after the second debate, the lawyer said, no, okay, we'll let you guys go. And we're not going to, because you didn't know about it and you had no idea what was going to happen. We did. And
you got publicity, which is always the good thing.
Absolutely. And the album, debuted in the top 5, and it was great for Depeche Mode, and it was great for us, and it cemented our relationship with them. And the kids thought that, we were the outlaw station still. So that was a wonderful moment. And no one really got hurt. 2 people were taken to hospital because they fainted. And that was it. But thank goodness nobody got hurt. If they had, it would have been a completely different outcome.
Absolutely.
How many people showed up for that In-Store? Was it Warehouse Records on La Cienega?
La Cienega.
Yeah, on the Beverly Center. They closed 6 blocks because they estimated 17,500 people were waiting.
Wow.
I know. It was crazy.
And they weren't in one line.
No, and they went around the blocks.
And they were climbing and they were, it was all over the place.
It was fairly orderly for about 15 minutes. Yeah. And then people began to realize if Depeche Mode are seeing 100 people an hour and there's 17,500 in line, it's going to take about 9 weeks before we get in up there. And it was sudden when that kind of went through their brain, they suddenly all went forward. It was that was the wild moment. And then to see the police pull out their Perspex shields and line up in a phalanx looking like a Roman legion and go down the street, making this noise like Marines or grunts. It was crazy, but everyone backed up. It wasn't, if it had been a Metallica crowd, I don't know what would have happened. I don't, because, it's a different vibe, I think, but it was definitely a moment in time that people still remember and still talk about.
All right, everyone, time for a break. I want to thank everybody for listening. We love doing this podcast, right, Reitz?
We love it. Yes, we do.
It's our way of reaching out to all the rock and roll fans. We've got no sponsors, just dedicated fans like you guys. And we ask that you please support us by going to Facebook and liking, following our posts, sharing our posts, whatever you can. Also the same thing for Instagram. Follow, like it, click, respond, talk, chat, do whatever you can. We appreciate it.
I was looking at a list of the top podcasts in America.
How close were we?
I didn't see our name in the top 100. So that's why we got to start getting that name out there again.
Okay.
People, come on now.
Okay. We're going to do that.
Indeed.
All right. Well, this will help because we got a trivia question, Rita Wild.
The trivia question for today is the Go-Go's first gig was played in the basement of A, Phil Spector's home, B, the Pussycat Porn Theater, or C, the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles, or D, the Walt Disney Archives. We'll get you the answer in the second half. So here we go with part 2 of our interview with Richard Blade.
Back to your book. During the interviews, you've kind of stretched out the span of each band's history. And I really like that. It wasn't just like, let's talk about one album, like, let's just talk about your current album. It really got into a lot of depth. And I'm assuming like each one was probably about an hour long.
An hour to 2 hours, some of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really love how when because I know bits and pieces about bands, but when I started reading some of these, I'm like, oh, this is great. And one of the other things that you brought up, it was during the OMD interview, I believe, was a movie that I really love that nobody's really heard about. It's 24-Hour Party People with Steve Coogan, which is, I think, a brilliant movie. And it's kind of about Joy Division, right? And kind of them coming into the play of the music world. So I highly recommend that if you can find it. And I'm not sure where it is out there, but it is a really good movie.
Without a doubt, for me, it took over from Spinal Tap. It's become, I think it's the best rock movie ever. And you try and tell people about it, but you have to say, it's not a documentary. It's great. And it's so funny. And I love the fact that they use some of the real people in it. Like there's a guy called Howard Devoto, who was in a band called Magazine that was signed to Factory Records. Mm-hmm. And at one point, there's an argument going on between Tony Wilson and the guys from New Order in the bathroom. And a guy is cleaning the bathroom, and they're talking about Howard Devoto. And then they go out of the bathroom, and he looks at the camera and he goes, "You're talking about me, but I don't remember it happening that way." I thought it was just brilliant. I loved it.
Somebody told me that the scenes with the Sex Pistols were real footage.
Maybe.
I don't know if that was true or not.
I'm not sure. The Sex Pistols. So many bands and so many artists have said that they were at the first Sex Pistols show, and that's what made them get into music. It's like when you talk to people who are in their, late 50s or early 60s, everyone went to Woodstock, and it's now, I would say 9 million people went to Woodstock. It's like everyone was at that Sex Pistols show,
In the book, I love how you dive deep into some of the certain issues with people and, their careers and so forth, whether it was drugs or alcohol, or just the fact that fame and sudden fame can mess you up. I think it was Kathy Valentine in her segment there, just talking about, all of a sudden we're getting all of this huge money and, I'm a teenager basically buying a house and I have all this money. What do I do? Mm-hmm. It's, I thought it was real fascinating with that, Did you find any common ground? Because it was during the pandemic, did you find any common ground among those creative people at that time?
Yes and no. Some of them were talking about the fact that they were working on more projects. Andy Bell was saying, "Oh, Vince has been working on. We finished this new album called Neon, and now Vince has found all these extra tracks that he's remixing, and I've got to do the vocals for." And I thought, hey, that's kind of like me. I've been super busy. I wrote a novel as well as doing lockdown interviews during the pandemic. And I thought, yeah, that's good. And then on the flip side of that, a couple of people like Terry Nunn from Berlin, I said, "So have you been working on new music?" And she went, "Nope." And I went, "What do you mean?" "Nope." She went, "Nope." You'll see that. It's like there's so much white space on that page. Nope. Nothing around it. "What do you mean?" "Nope."
Nope.
And it was kind of funny because it affected so many people differently. But and hopefully it's not going to come back and sweep over us again with, Omicron. And it's just, we're going through a really strange period. I'm not an expert. I'm just triple vaxxed.
Me too.
Good. Yay.
You basically kind of reinvented yourself on so many different levels, not only the radio, the videos, like I said, the TV and stuff like that, but diving. You became not just a regular certified diver. You became full on, whatever that was.
A master instructor.
Master instructor, and you moved to the Caribbean. My God.
I'm one of my philosophies in life is, in nature, nothing stays the same. It either grows or it decays. And I think that's the same for people. If you try and stay the same, you're not going to achieve much. And I've always wanted to do different things. And one of my dreams as a kid was to, because I grew up on the coast in England, and I love the water and love swimming, and summer was great. Summer was June 14th. That was it in England. June 14th is summer.
One day.
June 15th, it's fall. But I used to love to swim, and I made my own scuba gear. I actually borrowed the tanks and regulators, but my wetsuits, and I even bent my snorkel so it fit right and all this kind of stuff. And I thought one day I want to go to a place where the water's warm and clear, and I'd love to teach diving. And so that was always a dream of mine. And then in 1997, I bought a place in St. Martin with the idea of moving there in 2000 with my wife, with Krista. We actually got married there. So we were moving with my fiance at the time. And so I did that, and a move to quit everything. But one of the things I've always realized is it's going to end. A lot of people live life thinking that they're going to be, like the title of the new Marvel movie, Eternals. Ain't going to happen, kids. Hate to tell you that. And so you've got to enjoy every minute. My dad used to say that, enjoy every day, son. And so my big fear was waking up one day with tubes in me and a white ceiling above and a sound of boom, going like, I should have done it. And so it didn't seem that big a deal to quit everything and move out to the Caribbean. And I'm so pleased we did it. We were only there for a couple of years because of, things that happened with my mom and Krista's mom and stuff. But it was 2 incredible years I would not change anything about, because, it was like, check that one, done it. So it was great.
You and Krista were also in a boat accident. Everything kind of happened to you. So it's like you went there to get away from everything that was here, and then just life happened. And then you kind of reinvented yourself again when you came back to radio and to broadcast TV and stuff like that.
Yeah, I never intended to get back to radio either. I thought I'm going to push to do, TV production and writing, because I'd written some scripts while I was in St. Martin in the Caribbean. And they were getting kind of a good buzz about them. And in fact, I've written 3 novels now. And my first novel was based on this big script that got a lot of buzz. And I met with Jerry Bruckheimer over it, and also with Joel Schumacher. And they both loved it, and they both put it up for budgeting, but it was too expensive for an unknown writer with no track record. And it didn't matter that, people, I say that people, you're Richard Blade. And I go, yeah, but it's nothing to do with radio. Hollywood didn't give a crap about K-Rock. They don't care. And I'll never forget Jerry Bruckheimer's people saying, look, we love the script and we've got this sweetheart deal with Disney, but it's going to be $160 million to make this picture. Double that for the promotion, budgeting, advertising. We're risking $320 million of Disney's money, and this was in 2003, on an unknown writer. If it bombs, guess what? We're out of here. They're going to kick us off the lot because no one's going to lose $350 million on an untried writer. So, come back when you've done something. So after I'd written World in My Eyes and I got the writing bug, I thought I'm going to write that as a book. And so I wrote that as SPQR, which is Roman letters, meaning the Senate and people of Rome. And it was great, did really well. But I wrote a few other screenplays because I'd written for a sci-fi show in my last few years at K-Rock. I wrote for a show that was on UPN, which is now the CW, time travel show called 7 Days, where the hero goes back 7 days to fix a problem. So I sold a show to Lifetime, a movie to Lifetime called Long Lost Son that got made in 2006. And we were auditioning for the title role, the son, and we cast this unknown 18-year-old kid in it. And he was great, blew everyone away at the auditions. And he went on to get the lead in Gossip Girl. He stars in The Boys on Amazon, a guy called Chase Crawford, who's done incredibly well since. And the girl in it, she got burn notice off of the movie, Gabrielle Anwar. So it was great, but I got the writing bug. And at the same time, Sirius was starting up and they approached me. And so I started working for them, and then Star asked if I would work for them. And I said, yes. Bad experience.
Back to corporate.
Oh my goodness. That was a joke. That was like, yeah, you can do anything you want. And on the first day I went in, they had a playlist for me, and I just literally pushed the playlist away, and I had my CDs with me. That's back in the CDs day. And I played my show, and it went great, and everyone loved it. And they said basically you're coming in the evenings with a 0 rating, and then at the end of the first book we were at 2.5 and we were number 3 in the market. And so it was fantastic. And then they said, okay, but now you have to work within the format. I'm like, oh my God.
And get us to a 5.
I couldn't do it.
With no budget.
Yeah. I just couldn't do it. And so,
what were you playing? Were you just playing?
Oh, I went. They said, we want you to play 80s.
Yeah,
play what you play. So my first song was Depeche Mode, Blasphemous Rumors, and then it was New Order, it was Pet Shop Boys, In Excess, Joy Division, that kind of thing for the rest of the night. And the phones exploded. People were like, "Oh, dude, can you play Oingo Boingo?" We never get to hear them apart from Weird Science, So I'm playing like Not My Slave and stuff like that. And the more I played that, by the end of the 3-hour show, it was people were just, "Oh, my friends called and said you're back, and this is great." And I thought, "Oh, this is going to be fantastic." And then it went from just a weekend show to, "Well, we'd love you on 5 days a week, but you're going to follow the format, and we're not going to pay you any more money."
And it's not going to be any 80s.
Yeah, and oh my God! And then we had this long conversation about we want to syndicate you down to San Diego and get rid of the guy that's there. And I'm like, "Oh, I hate to do that, I hate replacing someone." And they said, "But we can only pay you an extra $75, and you have to come in an hour and a half early so you can cut the little drops." So where normally we start on 98.7, it would be the call letters for the station down there, and we'll run that in and out of the traffic reports because it'll start at 6 o'clock, and so traffic, all the usual behind the scenes BS. And I said, "Look, I'm not going to come in an hour and a half early because that's to be there by 6. That means get there by 4:30. So with traffic in LA, I'm going to have to leave by 3 to get into Burbank. So it's really, an extra 3 hours for $75 a night. That is crazy." And they went, you're right. It's $75 a week more. I said, what? And he said, yeah, you're going to do 5 nights extra, put someone out of work, and we're only going to pay you $75 for a week on top. And I'm like, nah, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. It's not right.
You have your own business now. I've seen you do some of your stuff that you do. I think it was at the Orange County Fair. We were down there for some sort of event, and you were working the crowd. I love the fact that you did that. Do you still do clubs? And I know sometimes you do. I see on your Facebook page you do weddings, and a big one is like graduation parties, or not graduation parties, but
reunions.
Reunions. Yeah. Those.
Yeah, no, I do a lot of it. Because I came out of the clubs, I've got that running through my blood. And I love working live, and I like taking requests. And I mean, it was tough and not tough during COVID, not being able to do it. It was kind of cool taking a break after 40 years and not working on a Saturday night. But I did miss it. And I do like getting people dancing, and like taking requests and making sure they have a good time, and that nothing feels better than at the end of the night, the organizer coming up and saying, oh my gosh, this is the best reunion we've ever had. And I just feel so fortunate to be able to still do that to this day. And I mean, I've got 2 coming up this weekend. I've got a thing on Friday in Costa Mesa for the British American Business Corporation, their Christmas lunch that they're doing. And then on Saturday, I'm doing a big fundraiser in Encino. So to me, it's just fun. It's all part of, to me, it's like integrated levels of being a DJ, it's that kind of thing. So I get the opportunity, and if it sounds great, I'll do it. And I travel a lot now because of Sirius XM, and I've got gigs coming up in Houston and in South Lake in Texas, 2 of them in Texas, which is kind of scary because of the COVID, etc.
Don't get pregnant.
No, exactly. Don't get me started on that. I'll say, I got a feeling you and I walk on the same side of the street, the left. And it's a strange time we're living in. Yeah, it really is. I wonder if it's going to affect the music, like Kent State affected Devo's music, and the Sex Pistols came out of England's crashing economy, a terrible economy. I wonder if we'll get something because of this division we see within our own country. Who would have thought it? Bean left K-Rock and moved to England because he honestly believes a civil war is coming.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that do. But then, you look at what is going on over in Britain and Europe, and it's like, it's not that much better. It's like, strange days indeed.
Thank you, Jim Morrison.
Yeah, indeed. One of the big things that's coming up in your life, and I'm so proud and excited for you, is going to be taking place probably in 2022, and that is a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Congratulations, Richard.
Yes.
Thank you. I honestly was completely shocked about it. I was approached 2 years ago by the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, and they said, your name's been put in for a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And I went, oh, that's great. And they said, yep, you're going to be getting it this year. And this was 2 years ago. And I said, thank you. That's fantastic. And then instead it went to a reporter, 84-year-old female reporter from NPR. Great. She deserves it. That was wonderful. And I didn't hear anything else. That was it. 2 years went by. And then I was in the kitchen, and my phone rings. And it was a number I didn't recognize. And Krista's there, and I thought, oh God, my auto warranty can be extended, that kind of thing. So I hit the speaker on, and I went, hello. And the voice said, so are you excited? And it's a woman's voice, and Krista looks at me, and I look at her, and
97.6.
Yeah, really. I said, what do you mean excited? And she goes, it's Anna here. And I went, hello, Anna. What should I be excited about? And she goes, this is Anna from the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce. I said, oh, hi, how you doing? And she goes, good, you're getting a star. And Krista levitated. She was about 1.5 feet off the ground, and she spun around, grabs her phone, and starts calling her friends. And so it's going to happen probably this coming summer. Everything had to be pushed because of COVID, because everyone who got it for last year is getting it this year. And so, but I'm hopefully going to get it in the middle of June, and it'll be 40 years to the day that I started at K-Rock.
Oh my God.
If it happens on that day. And it should be on Vine Street, very close to the Palace and Capitol.
Yeah.
Right by Capitol
Right
and the
Oh
Palace.
my! I'm just getting chills on that. That's so perfect.
But I was blown away. And again, one of those moments, because I was very close to my mom and dad, that I was just like, oh, if only they could see that, because they would, oh my gosh, my dad would have gone, good one, son, and then gone out to the pub that night and go, guess what? My boy's getting a star. It was, they were great. They were just lovely people.
So who's in the back of your mind that's going to be the presenters, or that's going to do a speech for you that day, Richard?
Well, I was thinking of John Taylor, but he's going to be in Ireland, unfortunately, from Duran Duran. So I honestly don't know. I mean, I'd love to invite.
You get two, don't you?
I think so. Yeah, I wouldn't mind actually inviting the guys from Sparks. I love the guys from Sparks. I was heartbroken I couldn't do the documentary they did, the Sparks Brothers, which is absolutely brilliant.
Just started watching it last night.
Oh my God. Edgar Wright asked me about 8 times to do it. And I'm in Mexico right now. And I was in Mexico then. And
Screw you.
I couldn't get back for it. And so we had some footage in Video One that we gave them to use. And I had no idea how it was going to come out. And I'm sitting there watching the documentary before I did the interview with the guys. And Krista was like, you should have done this. And I was like, I know. It was so brilliant. And Edgar Wright is a fantastic director. He did all-time favorite zombie movie, Shaun of the Dead, which is one of the funniest movies ever. We just watched a new one that he did, which the first half we loved. The second half we didn't like as much. It should have all been like the first half, because it turns into a thriller. It didn't need to. Called Last Night in Soho. But it's he's got such a distinctive touch, this guy, and I would have been honored to have worked with him for 5 minutes, to do the voice breaks, Yeah, he's great, but you'll love it. The Sparks Brothers, fantastic. And
I can't wait. I got through about the first 15 minutes, and I'm like, I gotta go to bed.
Yeah.
I hear you're still in it though. That they put you in it. There's
just a little clip of it that we gave them from Video One, and during the because it's so sad when you get to the 1980s, because Sparks were around from the beginning of the 70s, and they were huge in England. That's why they wanted me, because they were going to use me in 2 sections. They were going to use me during the English section when they broke massively in England with the album Kimono My House and the song This Town Ain't Big Enough for Both of Us. And it got to number 2 in the charts. And I was a DJ at the time. And I had dinner with them, I had lunch with Ron and Russell, and told them the story about how I would, on a Thursday night, I watched them on Top of the Pops. And then as I drove to my gig, I heard them on Radio Luxembourg. And then I got to my gig and I played their song and packed the dance floor. And they went, oh my God, that's great. Just gave an idea of the level of success they were at. So they wanted me to talk about that. And then they wanted me to talk about the K-Rock years, which was, a new era for Sparks. And the sad thing is, and you'll see it in the documentary, the only representation of that whole era is the old K-Rock sticker, Rock of the 80s, and
really?
they didn't get anyone to talk about it, and all it is them talking about it. And they so wanted somebody else to, because they've got more than 80 people talking about them, everyone from Bernard Sumner of New Order through to Flea, Beck. And I mean, it's just Mike Myers talks about it. And John Taylor, Nick Rhodes. But it's a fantastic documentary, one of the best docs I've ever seen.
I can't wait to finish it.
Yeah.
It's time for the bonus round, Richard.
Okay.
We're going to throw you the real fun questions.
Okay.
What was the first concert you went to?
It was one of three. I can't remember exactly. It was either Sweet, Gary Glitter, or Mud.
Was that in England?
That was definitely in England. Yeah, it was before Gary Glitter was put in jail. So.
Oh yeah. Who was the first rock star you met?
The very first rock star I met was, oh my goodness, Cilla Black.
Oh,
Cilla Black was a singer, and she's actually in that movie I just mentioned last night in Soho, or an actress playing her. But she was on a TV show called Opportunity Knocks with Bruce Forsyth, and I went down to a taping of it, and I met her backstage, and she signed an autograph for me. I was very thrilled.
Nice. Back when it was easier to get backstage.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was out at the stage door. I was on the street. I wasn't actually backstage.
Okay.
It was the tradition in England. They still have it. The stage door, and they go there and they sign the autographs. Well, now I suppose they take the selfies.
Right. What was the first album you purchased?
In Search of the Castaways, because I was in love with Hayley Mills. I went to see Hayley Mills.
Is that Disney?
Yeah, I think
Disney
it probably
soundtrack?
was. Yeah, with Disney soundtrack, and it was a gatefold album, and that's why I spent £1 of my money at the age of like 8 years old to buy it, just to look at the pictures of Hayley Mills because she was so pretty. Yeah, that was. I wish I could say it was the Beatles, but it wasn't. The Beatles came later, but Hayley Mills was before John, Paul, George, and Ringo.
And she was a girl, and that's what
and
you
she was
were
cuter.
Into, so.
Oh, yeah, she was a girl. Yeah, and she came from a very storied family. Her father went on to become a Sir John Mills, a very famous British actor who was also in Search of the Castaways.
Who would you like to meet that you've never met?
I would like to meet Pierce Brosnan, because I actually think he was a good Bond, not the greatest Bond, but he was a good Bond, and I'd like to sit down and talk with him. The other person I'd like to talk with, Paul McCartney, and apologize. No,
good luck on that.
Yeah,
he knows who you are now.
Yeah, he's got
Knock
your
him
number.
off the book list.
Yeah.
If you were making a documentary film, what rock subject would it be on, or music subject?
Think it would be on synthesizers. It would start in Germany with Kraftwerk and Giorgio Moroder, and then it would bring in Ultravox, OMD, Gary Newman, Human League, Heaven 17, Depeche Mode, and probably some of like Vangelis as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What band do you regret not seeing live? I mean, you've seen a lot of them, but any band that you were young enough, or they died or they broke up or whatever.
Well, I was too young, and I didn't even know they'd come to Torquay, my hometown. And I was looking, doing a random Google search on this band, and I saw a poster that they played at the Princess Theatre in Torquay, which is where I met Cilla Black. And it was John, Paul, George, and Ringo. And I was too young. I was probably 11 years old.
Oh my God.
I wouldn't have been allowed to go. And it was in their early days of beginning of 63. But I would have loved to have said I saw the Beatles. But there's a number of other bands, the Doors. I'd love to have seen the Doors. I'm a huge, huge Doors fan as well. But the Beatles, I had that chance had we known, and I think my parents probably would have taken me. My dad would have sat there going, but he did love Penny Lane. Yeah.
What is your coolest piece of memorabilia?
I would have to say it was an award I was given from the American DJ Association, a Lifetime Achievement Award. They gave it to me, and I was shocked and surprised. They'd asked me to come down to a meeting they were having in Orange County, and then they gave me it was in Vegas. They asked me to come out and speak at the convention they were having in Vegas, and they presented me with the award on stage, and I think that's probably my coolest memorabilia. So I would have to say that. Sure, there's something else that I picked up over the years I've completely forgotten about. In about half an hour, I got like Tourette's and scream it out. But,
well, you can call us up and let us know what that was.
Yeah.
We'll stay on the line until you think of it. What would you say to your 19-year-old self?
Oh, Buy Microsoft. I would say, keep going, kid. You've got your dreams, and if you keep going after them, you'll achieve them. But dream bigger. I think that a lot of us, myself included, don't dream big enough. But I've got zero complaints, but I would tell that little kid to keep going. And I think about him all the time because of what he did then. It's laid the groundwork for me now. When I went over to Europe as a kid, that was staggering to me. When I look back at it now, I'm like, did I really do that? I mean, that's crazy. That's great. But when you're so young and you've got no obligations, and you don't have to worry about 3 months rent or something like that because you were living at home with your parents. It's like, well, if I screw up, I just come back. But then life comes on and you've got all these obligations and responsibilities. You're like, okay. But no, that's what I say to the kid. Just keep going. It'll be okay.
In your book, when you were younger, you wrote 10 things down that you wanted to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
I think you accomplished them all. Would you concur?
I think so. I do. I was very lucky to do that. And again, I should have done 20 things on the list, but it was, it was a bitch of a night that night. That was a really stormy winter we had. And I remember putting that list together because I just didn't like England. One of the jokes I have is, when I was born and the doctor held me up and smacked me on the ass and said to my mum, "Oh, it's a boy." I went, "Oh, how come he's got an English accent?" I'm not, oh God, wrong country, but it was that cold winter made me write that list. And, but they all seemed, even at the time, that I could do them. So even for that little kid, it was, However, my friends didn't, they had that English mentality. It's never going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
You dreamer. Yeah, loser.
Yeah.
So I look at you now, but that's amazing. I'm so happy for you because it's reaffirming to see somebody who's achieved their dreams and who's been honest with themselves and had that integrity and kept that integrity throughout their career. And that's you. And we appreciate you so much.
Well, thank you. And it all comes again from my mom and dad, and I think a lot of the, success that I've had is by showing up on time and doing my job. If you do that, you're ahead of about 80% of the crowd already who, show up late and then try and leave early and don't do what they said. And why put yourself in that position, and why I wouldn't want people to do that to me. And so I think if you are willing to go just that little extra bit, and make it so that the people that you're working with or working for know that they're as important as you are, that you're not more important than them. I think that's why, you can have longevity in whatever career it is, not just DJing, but, in management, in restaurant business, whatever it is.
In life,
yeah, because you become valuable to them.
Right. And treat others like you want to be treated.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very simple, very corny philosophy, but it is actually the truth.
Right.
You don't shortchange people. Yeah.
So, Richard, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. The new book, The Lockdown Interviews, is available at Amazon. Is there an audio version?
There is not. The audio version, if you want to hear a lot of these, they're available on the SiriusXM app. You can go there and you can hear them. And, just open up your app and go to the podcasts and look for Just Can't Get Enough with Richard Blade. But the rest of them are in here. And there's, like 150 photos, most of them from my personal library. That, is kind of cool.
Some nice old photos and some current ones.
I got a email 2 days ago from Duran Duran's people saying, "Hey, could we give some copies of that away?
Aww.
Because we've never seen these photos before."
Cool.
So I'm sending them 2 of the copies signed so they can give it away. But that's always nice to hear that, the bands that gave you permission to use them are actually really pleased how it all turned out. So
yeah, nice to get that pat on the back. So
Are you going to be doing any book signings? Because I'm sure that a lot of people will want to know about that. But with COVID,
yeah, probably not with COVID. And we'll see how this all plays out. If what we're going into doesn't turn out to be a surge, but just like, the Lambda or the Mu variants, and it does go away, let's hope so, then I'll definitely do some book signings in the new year, probably in late January.
But you've got a great website. You're very active on social media, and I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk with us. And like I said, this book, wow. Oh, my eyes! It floored me. It really moved me. Resonated with me.
Rita, I honestly had you in mind when I wrote that book.
Wow.
I honestly thought that the DJs that I've listened to and that I've worked with over the years, both on the radio and in clubs and on the road, I want to write a books that they will understand and not go, oh, this is wrong, this doesn't work. And I had to fight with the publisher a few times, like talk over bed. They said, well, that's 3 words, talk over bed. I'm like, no, radio, it's talk over. It's one word. You've got to push it together. And the same with when you queue up a record, they wanted to spell it the British way for standing in line. Q-U-E-Q-U-E. Right. I'm like, no, you queue up a C-U-E. Go back and change it. And so I said, you can't do that. It would be a laughing stock. And so I really wanted it to be to feel real, that you were there, because so many of the people in the book, there's only 3 names changed throughout the entire book, 512 pages or something. But those DJs, they went out there on the road too. And then everyone went through, you went through, and CW saw what it was like, the change in radio, how radio went from being the influencer for kids, the most important way you could find music, to suddenly, like number 7 on the list these days. And that's so sad. It's being a child of radio. Yeah. It breaks my heart to read that, because I think radio should be, an influencer to this day. Absolutely.
I agree with you. And the fact that many car companies are not going to put radios in their cars, in the future, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
But part of the time.
Just stream it now. That's it.
Exactly. Stream it, or Sirius XM, which gets me through.
There you go.
So excellent. Thank you again so much, Richard. A real pleasure. Enjoy your time in Mexico, and best to Krista. She makes you happy, and you deserve that.
Oh, she's a wonderful, wonderful girl. I'm going to go and hit some waves now.
There you go.
You guys take care.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thanks again, Richard.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.
I think one of the things that Richard said where I got paranoid was he said he appreciates those interviews when people don't have to look at cue cards. And so I had all these 3 pages of notes about Richard in front of me, and I'm like, okay, I can't look anymore. I got to keep this professional. I got to keep, every once in a while, I glance down. So I know I'm not professional, but it's all how it sounds now.
Yeah, no, I it's like I always make notes, and I make like questions and stuff like that, and I will always have it near me just in case my brain blanks out. And where am I? What's my name? What am I doing? What
right.
CW?
Like if you have a Bruce Springsteen interview and then you freak out because it's Bruce, you need your notes.
But so the only time I really got lost was asking the bonus round questions, because I don't have those memorized like you. I think you have those memorized.
No, I don't have them memorized. Plus, every time we list them, I always kind of, we have like 25 or 30 questions, but some of them aren't appropriate to certain guests. Like, what other band would you like to play in, or something like that? And like, Richard's not in a band, so there's no point in putting that on there. So, no, I actually don't have them. I kind of go through and I just look at, what have we already asked? And if we've already asked one, cross it out. And then otherwise, let's do it. So.
Thank you again, Richard Blade, for zooming all the way from Mexico. Feliz Navidad.
Feliz Navidad, Ricardo.
Purchase all of Richard's books, including the latest, The Lockdown Interviews, and his autobiography, World in My Eyes, which I absolutely loved. They are available at Amazon.com. I think they're in hardcover now, so you can get them that way. You want to give them as Christmas gifts, or just a book to somebody that who appreciates and enjoys this kind of music.
It's also available on Kindle at Amazon. So go to our website to find the show notes on today's show. There you can find links to order Richard's book, along with some other fun videos that we dug up of Richard and his career, including there's a nice about 15-minute montage of news reports from the Depeche Mode Warehouse Records, we'll say incident. I'm sorry, in-store. So again, I'm so happy I wasn't there. Go to our website, rockandrollconfessional.rocks, to find that. And you can also support us by going to our page on Facebook and Instagram, like we said earlier. And please just share us with friends as much as you can and write a review wherever you are, wherever you listen. Please write a review. So, all right, Reitz, give us the trivia question.
All right, here's the trivia question. The Go-Go's first gig was played in the basement of Phil Spector's home, the Pussycat Porn Theater, the Cecil Hotel, that's that weird one where everybody
dies, or they found the
person in
Black Dahlia or whatever inside the tank really? On the roof.
There was another one that they just found on the roof. Well, not roof, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
The Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles or the Walt Disney Archives. And the answer would be, what would you guess?
Well, there's so many different ways. I mean, I think Phil Spector's house would be like pretty freaking cool.
Yeah. But
I don't know if there's a basement in it because it's not the answer.
Yeah. You gave it away. The answer is actually B. The Pussycat Theater on Hollywood. In the basement of the theater was the Mass Club, which was open for just a little over a year and highlighted bands like the Ramones, the Dead Kennedys, and the Go-Go's.
And just a little extra trivia, right in front of the theater is my great-grandmother's star on Hollywood Boulevard.
Wait, your grandmother has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame?
Because I'm not worthy of it.
I know your uncle was the big magician and stuff like that.
On my mother's side, both of her grandparents were in silent films. And so my great-grandmother has a star. It's Bessie Barriscale, and it was because the theater might be there. It's not a Pussycat Theater anymore, but it was right there. So I remember many, many years ago, right after I got out of college, my parents came down and we went to visit it. And we have a picture. I don't know where it is, but we have a picture where in front of her star, but then the marquee of the Pussycat Theater right above it.
I did not know that. So, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So there you go.
The legacy lives on with you two, doesn't
right? As soon as I get my star after Richard, I'm gonna maybe for 2023, CW can get his star on the Hollywood Walk of Shame.
Go ahead.
I'll
so
try.
Much fun. Yeah.
Anyway, everybody, thank you all for listening. As always, have a great holiday season, and we'll see you very soon with another episode.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Drive carefully. Don't be so pissed off on the roads, people.
And don't drive next to Rita.